Welcome back to Almost Live here at Streaming Media West 2016. I'm Tim Siglin, contributing editor with Streaming Media Magazine, and I've got today with me my good friend Andy Beach from Microsoft. Andy, what's your title at Microsoft these days?
Tim, I am a technical evangelist in our developer experience organization.
Okay. Is that actually what your card says, all those things?
If I had cards, that is
it
exactly
would be what it would say.
Yeah.
So I think the last time we talked, of course, you'd come on full-time at Microsoft. You'd been working with Microsoft Studios prior to that. Are you still doing work with studios, or is the focus shifted?
I would say the focus has shifted. My focus these days, I still work with media partners, but I'm specifically working with the esports partners. So I'm working with guys like Twitch, Major League Gaming, and Electronic Sports League.
So in esports, as my son told me early on, and when I looked into it, I was just fascinated by how many viewers they have simultaneously for these tournaments. Are you working with them on how to best scale? Or are you working with them on how to stream straight out of the Xbox, like in-game streaming?
So with Twitch, I was part of a team that helped them enable streaming out of the Xbox directly in previous times. But the focus right now is really enhancing that experience. Since they can already do the streaming part, it's what can we do to better improve the experience.
And what do you mean by better improve the experience?
So it tends to be things like making it more interactive or making it more engaging or finding new ways. So a lot of the focus this year has been how can we use Azure to do something with it. Some of the examples of things that we've talked about and are working on concepts around are things like how do we automatically close caption or translate the closed captions because it is such an international audience. How do we use things like the bot framework and machine learning to better recommend the streams that they should be viewing? Because if we think that OTT has a discovery problem, esports has a huge discovery problem because you go from a couple of channels of things, or let's say a dozen apps out there, to 10,000 broadcasters. And how do you find them when they're on, and how do you do that? And so finding ways to more intelligently match the broadcaster to the viewing audience is kind of one of the things that I'm looking at from a problem perspective.
So discoverability is obviously
definitely
huge.
Yeah.
So talk to me about bidirectional feedback, because obviously the whole premise as you watch a game on Twitch is you're hearing the conversation between the team members at a tournament. Would we be looking at things like ways to get feedback through polling or something like that?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that some of the partners have looked at, and some of the ways that they're tackling it. Microsoft actually acquired a game broadcasting company called Beam over the summer, and one of the things they were known for, and one of the things that Xbox is looking to take advantage of, is they actually allow the viewer to have an interactive experience with the broadcaster. So you can actually change aspects of what the game is doing as the broadcaster is viewing it. Enable certain things, force them down certain paths, that kind of thing. And so you truly have an impact there.
Almost like those books we used to get as a kid, choose your own adventure type of thing. But in this case it would be crowdsourced choosing. So let's just talk about that for a second, because I'm fascinated. Are we saying that you got 50,000 people voting, and if 50,001 vote for them to go down the left path versus the right path, it would force the game that direction?
Exactly.
So it's the opposite of cheats. It's actually ultimately making the game harder for somebody to do.
But it's giving them that impact. And there are ways outside of what Microsoft is doing that the partners are exploring, doing exactly that kind of thing. Twitch has been sort of at the forefront of finding ways to let the viewer do things like donate or cheer the individuals along, and enabling that kind of stuff. So really taking a look at what they've been doing, and then looking at how we expand that into the console world, how we expand it into their experience across the mobile devices and the desktop while they're doing that. That's kind of been the focus of my area.
So what percentages of people who watch are watching the in-game stream, quote unquote, versus watching through an external platform?
I don't know that I have good numbers on that. I know that in the Xbox world, when we talk about the ones that are viewing on the Xbox, the numbers there are high, but they're actually typically viewing PC games. So it's not necessarily Xbox games that they're watching. So like things like Dota and League of Legends and things that you don't play on your Xbox, those are actually some of the highest viewed
consumption.
And they're PC games. And I'm assuming that stays true when you move into the desktop realm as well.
People are watching Xbox tournaments and that type of thing.
The platform doesn't necessarily dictate what the interests are.
Okay.
The interests are categorical, sort of, if you watch PC games, you're going to want to watch PC games.
Which means ultimately you can't plan for, you as the broadcaster can't plan for, I can get away with a certain number of in-game views, which take a lot less streaming because of the fact that it's essentially just re-rendering the pixels the way they are, versus somebody who wants to watch it in a more traditional H.264 stream.
Right. And a lot of these streams are now also captured as a VOD asset, and so a lot of these guys, when they broadcast, it's their job. So they broadcast typically somewhere from like 3 to 5 times a week for 2 to 6 hours at a go.
And you listen to it and it is completely raw. I mean, like somebody walks in with a pizza delivery, they're like, oh, the pizza's here, and then you hear munch, munch, munch.
And they're constantly talking back and forth with the audience. They have a chat room and they're interacting with those guys and doing stuff, but all of that asset is there, and the VOD stuff gets looked at just as much as the live stuff does.
It's interesting, I mean, because obviously Twitch came out of the whole Justin TV live casting thing, where there had begun to be that interaction with the audience during live. So now it makes more sense to me as to why Twitch grew out of that, because of that interactivity.
And they've kind of come back into it through their creative. They've opened up a whole area now. They have a whole section on Twitch called creatives. And that's for people who aren't gamers but still want to broadcast. And it's typically things like writers who are writing, programmers who are coding, painters who are painting, or illustrators who are illustrating. If you're doing something creative, even people in the kitchen cooking, if you're doing something creative, you could turn on a camera, broadcast yourself while you're doing that thing.
So it is a live cast all over.
And then you can interact with the audience that's talking to that, and they're starting to get a real attraction there.
It would be, I mean, I could see the practical example of that where you call your mother up and say, now what was it that you put in that recipe that I need, where they could be watching you dice the stuff and somebody says, oh, you need to add some garlic to that to make it taste better.
And I have a friend who is a vegetarian and vegan. I don't do a lot of vegan cooking, but there's a lot of vegan broadcasters, and so it's actually a good way to go find recipes and the process for doing the thing. So there's parts of it that are interesting, and then I have found myself just getting caught up in watching an artist or an illustrator working.
The joy of painting.
Yeah.
Bob, what Bob did years ago.
Exactly. And they actually reran the Joy of Painting on it at sort of at the kickoff, and it was hugely successful. And you get yourself sort of just caught up in that, like watching the process of something get created is fascinating.
Nice. All right, Andy, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and giving us your insights. This is Almost Live at Stream Media West 2016 with Andy Beach from Microsoft.